It's time for the MLB 24 Season 3 Tier List Extravaganza. We're a couple weeks into the new season of MLB The Show 24, and there's been a ton of great cards already dropped. Let's go over who the best and not quite the best cards are. Let me know in the comments some super underrated players that you guys are using that maybe should be a little bit higher up on the list. Leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and let's get into it. As always, we're going to go position by position. We will not cover every single card in the game. We're not going to go over wild cards as well, or else this would be at least a 2-hour-long video. But we're going to start with the catcher position. And, you know, these are guys that are usable. I have seen people use them, but obviously you can do better. You've got the 95 Austin Wells, the duo Danny Jansen. It'd be so cool if they made this card have dual eligibility both for Blue Jays and Red Sox, you know, for those two theme teams. But alas, they did not. So since you're probably not going to use those cards too much, we'll move on up to the B. And, you know, you've got some pretty solid ones. That new Hunter Goodman. Now, I try and build these lists for, like, a median player, not the top of the line, but also someone that, especially if you're still playing and watching this video at September 23rd, 2024, probably at least somewhat competitive, right? So Hunter Goodman, lower contact, lower vision, which do impact how good of a card it is. He has great power, but, you know, keep that in mind. I'm going to look for the average player and try and build that list according to that. Otherwise, a couple more good cards, some out-of-position catchers. Bob Gibson, Paul Konerko, and Paul Skeens really can't go wrong. Anybody in B tier are all good enough. And then you get an extra echelon on A tier. That Bryce Harper, super fun card, some of the best quirks and the best swing in the game. Kenley Jansen, a switch hitting catcher with like 120 contact per side, is otherworldly. The Zach Greinke with the catcher secondary, very fun. And Troy Percival, he was in packs, but don't sleep. He's a little bit cheaper now. He is pretty good. But when it comes down to it, nobody compares to third leg Craig Biggio. This card is outstanding. You're talking about pretty much max contact, fielding, speed, and steal with 90 power as a catcher, especially with the thinner position being right now. Easily, like, position by position, he's one of the best in the game right now. I love that card so much. He really helped me with the grind towards Ohtani, getting those stolen bases, and he's just a Swiss Army knife, being able to play catcher. Outfield as well, you'll see him on a lot of positions here. He's really going to fill up the S tier here for us. Moving on to first base, couple live series cards here. You're looking at Bryce Harper, Vlad Jr. You're going to have supercharged guys. It's tough to include those on the list because if you're watching it a week from now, they're probably not supercharged anymore. Like Carlos Santana, you know, he was a 99 supercharged, but I think that's done now. Otherwise, you've got a couple familiar faces, Realmuto and Austin Wells, who were just on here. Going up to the C tier, we have, once again, some guys that are not quite there. You know, your Spencer Horwitz type. He's really good against righties, but he cannot hit lefties. And if you're a platoon bat, it's really going to diminish your overall value. And again, I am impacting things like speed and defense depending by position. First base speed and defense isn't a big factor. They help, but you don't need them. Obviously, speed is great for offense. If you don't hit a home run, you know, having 0 speed or having 99 is the difference between getting thrown out at first from the outfield or maybe a triple. You know, your Yasmani Grandal types. But moving on up to B tier, we've got some fun players. Admittedly, I thought this Freddie Freeman was going to be a lot better than he ended up being. Same thing as this Chris Bryant, just a bit disappointing. And again, that Chris has no quirks, which is a big hindrance to what that card could have been. That Thomas Saggese, really fun card. Again, he's a platoon guy. You can put him at a variety of different positions, and he's going to work well. So he is pretty fun, too. A tier is pretty interesting. This John Singleton, who was in that Romantic About Baseball program that Chris Bryant was in, I think he's a better card. I mean, he cannot field. He doesn't come to the ballpark with a mitt. But you don't pay him for that. He's going to hit, and he's going to He's got like the Babe Ruth jog. It's really entertaining to watch. This switch hitter, Lance Lynn, is incredible. Really fun card. Michael Busch out of the new POTM. Kyle Schwarber. Honestly, I was close to putting him to S tier. I love his swing, but he didn't quite make the mark of your Babe Ruths, your Ernie Banks, Hank Aaron, Jackie Robinson, and I included Mike Schmidt in here as well. I know not everybody's a big fan of his swing, but I try and think of it as, well, somebody must be, and his stats are good, so we should reward him by putting him in S tier. One thing also I want to reiterate is that these are not in any particular order. When I make these tier lists on showzone.gg, they shuffle between the tiers, so think of it as the tiers matter, and if it's a big differential, I'll probably tell you about it, so keep that, in mind going forward here. Second base, we've got some more players here, and I love to see the overall discrepancies because I think that's something that really is cool about MLB The Show, is I honestly do think that 90 Ketel Marte is on the same mark as that 97 Spencer Horwitz. Again, I think it goes to show it's not always just the number on the Diamond Shield, it's about the attributes. Moving on up to B tier, we're going to have a lot of these out of position cards. That Aaron Nola is pretty cool, I must admit. And then Darren Baker, again, talking about a guy that just made the Ohtani program so quick, so fast, so easy. 99 speed, 99 steal, and some sneaky power in there as well. Cutter Crawford's got tons of contact. If you're looking for a Red Sox theme team or something, he's your man. Luis Angel Acuna, Ronald's brother. Honestly, I wish they would have held off a little bit because they gave him the card before he was hitting the home runs. He's up to 3 now, I believe, with incredible speed numbers. So it would have been fun if we could have got like a 99 season awards card for him in the next program or something, but still a really fun card there. Anthony Rizzo. I think a lot of people forget that it's a two-way card. He can play second base, and he's pretty good. He's got hundreds on contact and power versus both righties and lefties, up above 100, and he's got pretty good fielding, too. He's a really damn solid card that just is going to miss out on the S tier ranking. And then I would say there is a bit of a discrepancy between, him and Michael Busch, the two Cubs, and then we're down from there. Mike Busch, really good, doesn't have the power against lefties, but maxed out contact and max power right. You've got River Ryan, again, a guy with tons of contact and just really good bat-to-ball skills. Greinke and DeGrom, couple of shortstops, which are very good, but not quite up to these three. Biggio, Jackie, and Tommy Edman, yeah, exactly who you'd think would fall under there. Give it a couple of years, he's going to have a Hall of Fame plaque of his own. The Edman card is super fun. He's got great fielding ratings, can play a ton of different positions. He is an outfield primary, and he's got really quick reactions to the ball. On top of being a switch hitter, he's a fantastic card. Jackie, you know what to expect. He's always really good in the game. He's a lot like Craig Biggio. I think Biggio's even a step above. I think some of his stealing numbers are even a bit higher than Jackie, which is crazy. Moving on over to third base, we're going to look at the C tier, and again, some familiar suspects. If you're using these cards and think they're great, awesome, I love that. Prove me wrong. Again, that's what I'm saying. You can use these cards and still be effective. It's not like Madden where if you're using a 95 compared to 99s, he's got half the speed that your receiver does. Your cornerback's going to get cooked every time. No, MLB plays a lot differently, and thank the Lord for that. We're looking at B tier. We've got the Chris Bryant here once again. A lot of guys I don't think anybody knew here that we haven't talked about in B tier. Some fine options for sure. Moving on over up to A. I guess this is in B as well. You've got Alex Gordon for the Royals. I love his swing. They just didn't give him quite the attributes that he needed, which is unfortunate. Bring him back into the game as a new legend this year. Bobby Witt Jr. is one of my favorite swings in the game, which is saying a lot for someone who's definitely has a fetish for the left-hander swings. He really knows how to stroke it. Only 3 A-tier guys. I think there really is a big discrepancy between Mark Vientos, Michael Busch, and Tommy Edman. Of course, we talked about the latter two, but Mark Vientos there for the Mets. He's a paid card. He's in packs exclusively, which makes it a little less likely that you have him or are going to get him, but he's a really fun card. I did have to get him in order to finish a program, so I just rented him for a little bit and boom, got the program done. Got the stats finished. Then moving on up to S, familiar faces, we got Ernie Banks, Jackie Robinson, and Mike Schmidt. The Ernie Core Series, if you have not earned them yet, if you go back and complete some of the Team Affinity from the Season 2, Chapter 3 for the action figure, you're going to be able to get him 40 action figure cards needed, and he's one of the best cards of the game. Fits a lot of positions. I love that card a bunch. Moving on over to shortstop again. A lot of the same C-tier guys. I'm sure, like, if Addison Barger was watching this video, he'd probably be pretty fucking sick of watching right now. He's like, come on. Like, no position I'm better than C-tier? Bullshit. Moving on over up to B-tier. Again, you've got this Luis Acuna, which big fan of. Got a great swing in the game. Very much like his brother. I wonder if they actually have the same swing equipped, because in real life, it looks nearly identical. You've got this Dansby Swanson, who is an XP reward path. I like the swing on him. He's got good fielding, just the contact and power numbers aren't quite there. I believe he did have a quirk drop-off this past season as well, considering he didn't hit quite as good in 2023 with the Cubs as he did prior with the Bravos. Moving on over up to A tier, we've got Bobby Witt Jr. making A. At shortstop, he retains all of his fielding, gets Diamond Shield defense, which is uber important at one of the game's most defensively inclined positions. We've got this Corey Seager, which I'm happy that there is a Seager. I kind of forgot that he was even out there. I've not used this one. I know he was the chase pack card some time ago, but he is one of the best swings in the game. He could have 2 contact, and he would probably at least be in B tier. He is so good, so consistent for me. And we've got, DeGrom, Greinke. Those cards play up a little bit at their native positions. They retain all their defense. Barry Larkin. I know maybe not everybody's enamored by Larkin and Paul O'Neill as the World Series rewards. Obviously, we're getting a new season quite shortly here, but that Barry Larkin is very good. He's got excellent hitting, really good power numbers for a Larkin card, and the fielding is always there as well. He's going to be joined by Ernie, Jackie, and Mike Schmidt. Again, familiar faces. Now, I'm not going to put the Season 3 collection guys on there. Your Randy Johnson, Lou Gehrig, and somebody else who's the other collection guy, because you can't earn them yet. Ricky Henderson, I think he's the other one there. They'll be there for the next tier list, but for right now, since you can't earn them, I feel like it would just be a little bit of a waste of space and be too many people asking in the comments like, oh, how do you get this card? Well, you can't. Moving on over to D tier, Addison, you're going down. Outfield, there's just too many options where we had to implore the D tier. And again, this is really where your John Singletons, if you have bad speed, bad fielding, you will get hit hard for it, because the outfield, you need really good, primarily reaction. I think that's the most important stat out there is reaction. You look at a guy like Byron Buxton, he could have 99 speed. It doesn't matter if he has low reaction. He's really going to get a bad foot off to the ball. He's going to take the wrong step, and even if you have 99 speed, that's the difference between you catching the ball and it being a triple in the gap. Looking at C tier, we've got a couple live series, of course. Soto, Judge, Ohtani, and Trout. At this point of the season, we're just kind of at the point where live series isn't really up to snuff as far as the best players. Could you use them? Sure. Especially with the inside edge buff, they could be a bit better. But guys like Judge, just not fast, doesn't have great defense. In the game, I think it's a little ridiculous how low they have him rated. Soto, we know he's not good in the field. Ohtani, he's got really poor reaction rating, I think 57. And that's out of position from his regular starting pitcher / DH as well. Guys like Schwarber, it's tough. I love the hitting, but he's just so bad. He's got 37 speed. It's really tough to use him in the outfield. But again, remember, you can make him work to your advantage. If you play at a smaller ballpark where you've got him in left field and he doesn't have to, go all the way to center field and Polo Grounds, it's going to be a little bit easier. So if you think of what stadium you want to play at, maybe do like a Shield Woods or something, it could make it easier on you. Moving on over up to B tier and A tier, I guess, because I scrolled too far. We got Big Christmas at B tier. Fun card, just too expensive. Again, that's the problem with MLB The Show, is all the pack cards, unless they eventually go on sale, which takes a while. What happens is Big Christmas comes out, he's really fun, he's really exciting for the couple people that can afford him, and then his price kind of remains consistent, and then there's better cards that get put out. So for the majority of a season, they just release content in packs that nobody uses. So that's what makes it really frustrating as a regular consumer of the game. Otherwise, you've got this Johan Santana, again, kind of similar thing, although he did get cheaper on the market because he was in a flash sale this past week. We've got Raleigh Fingers and Mike Lorenzen. This card, Mike, two-way player. In real life, this is only a center field, out of position card for the Reds. Kind of fun card. Got Luis Robert Jr., who's really good. He's got a great swing for a righty, little bit lower vision, but you can make that work. Paul O'Neill in the World Series reward, super underrated. Roberto Clemente. More people got to get this card. He's basically BGO, just a little slower, but he's really fun to use. Sammy Sosa, again, it's just kind of hard to warrant the 200,000 stub price tag, but is a good card, although he does lack a couple intangibles like vision, and the speed is a bit lower than you'll see on the top end. With guys like Corbin Carroll, Shohei Ohtani, which honestly, I think the Ohtani probably is the best card in the game. He's got essentially every quirk that you could ever want. He's got maxed out speed, maxed out stealing, and I've used him in the outfield. I think left field is the best spot for him, and he plays just great out there. He does have the speed. The reaction could be higher, but I believe it's in the 80s. I don't think you can parallel. Actually, let me check if you can parallel that up. It's at 80 stock, so you cannot get it into the 90s, but you can at least get the fielding up into the 90s, which is pretty cool. You've got BGO, Hank Aaron, Jackie, and Babe Ruth. Those guys are titans. You've seen them in S tier the whole video. So outfield, a lot of great cards right there for sure. Moving on over to the starting rotation, which we're going to see, some controversy here for sure, because pitching ratings really does not matter. They do, but for the most part, you're looking at the pitch mix. You could have maxed out stats on hit K and BB9, but if you throw a 4-seam, 2-seam, and a changeup, you're probably going to be batting practice when it comes to facing another human. Offline, it's fine. Anybody can be good in Conquest. You put me in the game. I could pitch a shutout in a Conquest game. You've got the Shota Imanaga. He does have a different pitch mix from the 99 Season Awards card earlier in the year, but just nothing too fantastic. Harold Baines, he's got a running fastball and a palm ball. More interesting, or less interesting than you'd think. The running fastball doesn't really have much break. It's pretty hittable. You've got Ron Guidry, always just lacking the effective pitch mix in the game. Once more, I just really wish we could get to a point with MLB The Show where someone can just pitch like they did in real life and they can be good and effective in the game. You know, you could have a 4-seam, 2-seam, and a changeup and be dominant. Like a Craig Kimbrell back in the day. He was like a 4-seam, 2-seam curveball guy, but in the game, they have to mix around his pitch mix a little bit to make him usable. The new Burt Blyleven, not bad. 2 curveballs, a little redundant, but usable. You've got Ellie de la Cruz, along with a handful of other out-of-position guys. Ellie, he throws hard. He's got double outlier, but he throws about double as many balls as he does strikes. He's extremely hard to control. So he's going to get a knock for that for sure. You've got live series Tarek Skubal, 95 Pedro Martinez, a couple guys that have been in here for a long time. Jose Barrios, if you could afford him, not a bad option. J.R. Richard, if you know how to use him with the double outlier, I think even on the slider he's got it. He throws gas, but he's only got fastballs. You know, he doesn't have the off-speed pitch. Even his breaking ball, the slider, like I said, is into the 90s. A tier. Ohtani's here again. Babe Ruth is here again. Those are still incredible options, especially when we don't have that many good starting pitchers right now in Season 3. Austin Riley's underrated. He's got a lot of control, which makes him a little bit more easy to use. Pete Crow is a wild card. He doesn't have like Ellie de la Cruz inconsistencies at finding the strike zone, but it can be a little bit hairy sometimes. This Nolan Arenado is actually pretty damn fun. He too was just cheaper on the market due to flash sales. Then A tier, or S tier rather, gonna give it to Anthony Rizzo and then Todd Helton. Of course, we talked about Rizzo as a two-way player, can play second base with this out-of-position card. He's a junk baller. He's got a sidearm release as a lefty. He's got a screwball and a little velo too. He's pretty fun, and he's real funky, so he's fun to use. Then we got Todd Helton. I think he's probably the best pitcher in Season 3 right now. If you look at the tournaments, you see a lot of people using him. And it makes sense. The guy was a quarterback. He started over Peyton Manning at Tennessee. I mean, he could have been a damn good pitcher. Could have been a damn good quarterback if he stuck with that. So he's super fun. Moving on over to the bullpen, the right-handed arms. We've got Mason Miller. This is Nate Pearson. I know it's hard to really know who I'm talking about. And Ryan Walker. Again, just a case of a poor pitch mix. They didn't really transfer it to be effective into the game, and he suffers as a result of it. B tier, you see a lot of these, out-of-position guys. Adam Dunn, Jake Cronenworth, Jurickson Profar, and Wade Boggs. I do think probably Profar and Cronenworth are the best of the two. Bruce Sutter, not the best pitch mix on paper, but it works better than you'd think. Give it a shot if you do have that card. I think he's in ranked season, so if you did get that card, give him a chance. He's not bad. Here in B tier, we have Porter Hodge, who I think is a bit better of the I think he's probably the best out of the three Cubs players all on the same card art. A tier, we got Mandingo. Felix Bautista. I love his cards. You can get into trouble if you have someone that really knows how to hit him. But from my experience, if you're playing on the lower ratings, if you mix that fastball in with the splitter, it is lights out. It is so effective. Jose Trevino was released on day one. He's a junk baller. He's pretty cool. Raisel Iglesias, also a paid card, but if you want to try him out, I've really liked his cards in the past. I'm sure this one's going to be really good too. The Machado, I think, is a very good righty arm out of the bullpen. And the McGuire as well, also pretty solid. The one great thing about the out-of-position program is you really got a lot of opportunities for good relievers, which typically in Team Affinity, you don't see that. S tier, very obviously, Mariano Rivera. Unanimous, just like him. The first unanimous Hall of Famer in Major League Baseball history. He's really good, that card. I love him so much. Then moving on over to the final list, we've got lefty relievers coming out of the bullpen. Couple live series, trio of core cards, Josh Hader, Matt Strom, and Taylor Rogers. There's not a lot of lefty arms that I think are usable right now, but these three are like at the base level. You've got this core series hyper, Andrew Miller. He's cheaper than he was earlier in the year. I know a lot of people still use him to this day and really like that card a lot. So if you're struggling for lefty arms out of the pen, I recommend 3 and 5. 3 lefties, 5 righties. That's my ideal split. Jake Diekman, you know what to expect. Just like real life, if you pitched on your team, you can get lots of strikeouts. He's really wild, though, so be prepared. John Franco, I like this card, but I think people are getting more familiar with him because we've had such a shortage of lefties. People are more ready for John Franco and what he's got. Paul O'Neill, second time on this tier list, but a different position. Pretty fun card. Again, they gave him a good mix, and he is effective, but I got to give it to Ron Green. We're looking for Riley Green, not Hunter Green. Riley Green has a sinker cutter combo, is extremely fun to use, and he's got Aroldis Chapman's mechanics, so he's really good. And Charlie Blackmon, I think him and Riley are going to be your two best options out of the bullpen for lefties. You really can't go wrong unless you have Hunter in there instead. Although you could go and grab the actual pitcher, Hunter Green. And there we go. That's the tier list for Season 3 thus far. We're probably going to make at least one more before we get up on out of here for the MLB 24 calendar year. It's been interesting. You know, we've got lots of cool cards. The Ohtani, of course, is so damn fun. And again, let me know in the comment section what your team is looking like right now. In fact, just go down and list me your entire lineup, and I'll rate a couple in the comments section. Thank you for watching this one, and you guys have a great rest of your day.